With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Veteran Washington, D.C. lawyer Emmett Flood, who represented President Bill Clinton during his impeachment process, is joining the White House to represent President Donald Trump in the special counsel's Russia investigation. He'll replace lawyer Ty Cobb, who's leaving the post at the end of May. Correspondent Chad Day reports if and when President Trump will answer the Mueller question.
The $64,000 question is, will he sit down for an interview or not? And, at this point, we just don't have a good answer. The president has made public comments where he will say, I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to do this interview. And then he'll backtrack from that and say, we'll see, which is a common refrain.
A report says that a C-130 cargo plane that went down near a Savannah, Georgia airport carried 9 Puerto Rican National Guard troops and that none of them survived the crash. Senior Master Sergeant Roger Parsons says his colleagues are mourning the loss of lives.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to our brothers and sisters at the Puerto Rico Air National Guard. We're with them. We're here to support them, and we'll be here the entire time to support them.
Cause of the crash has yet to be determined. President Trump is lavishing praise on his new Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo.
In his first visit to the State Department, the president witnessed Pompeo's ceremonial swearing in.
I have absolute confidence that he will do an incredible job as the nation's 70th Secretary of State.
Pompeo thanked God for his blessings and the president for the opportunity.
You have entrusted me with a weighty and awesome responsibility to serve the American people.
He promised to employ tough diplomacy when necessary and to make sure America is always a respected and principled leader on the world stage. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Iowa legislators have approved a bill banning most abortions once a fetal heartbeat is detected, propelling the state overnight to the front of a push among conservative state houses, jockeying to enact the nation's most pro-life regulations. On Wall Street, they're down by 174 points. This is SRN News. SRN's Patrick Foss continues his week-long series with Josh McDowell. Today, he talks about his famous book, More Than a Carpenter.
Josh didn't have any writer's block when it came to penning More Than a Carpenter in 1977.
I was in Chicago, and I said to my wife, I'm going over to the Walgreens. I'm getting 12 legal pads, going back to the condo that we were staying at with some friends in inner city Chicago, and I'm not going to bed or leaving until I write a book. So I sat down, just started writing, never went to sleep for 42 hours, and in 42 hours the manuscript came off. I did not read over it because I was afraid to, and sent it off to Tyndale. Never dreamed it'd become one of the most read books in history.
With over 27 million copies distributed, it's a hard-hitting book for those who doubt Jesus' deity and his purpose.
It's in 100 and some languages. First Christian book to go into more than 50 languages except the Bible, and it's now in about 114, 115 languages around the world.
Tomorrow we'll hear about another important book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. This is SRN News. A group of House Republicans has officially joined the push for a Nobel Peace Prize for the president.
Indiana Congressman Luke Messer unveiling a letter signed by 18 Republicans sent to the Norwegian Nobel Committee, touting the upcoming historic meeting between the president and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The letter details how North Korea has evaded international calls to denuclearize for decades, but that President Trump's peace through strength policies are working.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines reporting. The Trump administration is proposing to ease Obama administration restrictions on oil and gas leasing and other activities across a huge swath of the American West that were enacted to protect a declining bird species. Interior Department officials on Wednesday released a draft of their proposed changes to conservation plans for the threatened greater sage grouse in 7 states. More details at srnnews.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
USA Radio News.
Today at the State Department, President Donald Trump swore in new Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Mike Pence was also in attendance. Let's take a listen to some of the words President Trump said about the new Secretary of State.
Mike has also earned my deepest respect and admiration and trust, and you'll see why over the coming years, probably over the coming months. I have absolute confidence that he will do an incredible job as the nation's 70th Secretary of State. As Mike travels the world, he will carry out the greatest mission and highest duty of the State Department, to represent the interests of the American people.
We're hearing at least 2 people died as a massive military transport plane crashed on a highway near Savannah, Georgia. The large C-130 Hercules military airplane crashed earlier today, and large black smoke clouds could be seen from miles away. This is USA Radio News. Today, Mike Pompeo was sworn in as Secretary of State. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice shares her opinion on Pompeo.
Well, first of all, it's an exciting day for him, and congratulations to him, because you walk into that building and you realize all the history. And Thomas Jefferson, by the way, is your predecessor many times removed, and so it's a very exciting day. I like very much what he said about the world's greatest diplomatic corps. I think that's absolutely true. These men and women serve all over the world in the toughest of places.
Arizona teachers demanding another $1 billion in school funding have argued that their ongoing 4-day walkout is for the kids, but don't expect the pay hike to stoke student achievement. Lost in all the hubbub over this year's high-profile walkouts in Oklahoma, Kentucky, and now Arizona is a comprehensive study that shows student test scores continue to be stagnant, even though education spending has been climbing for decades. The plan for many school districts in Arizona is to head back to school tomorrow. This is USA Radio News. Billy Graham lived to be 100 years old, and he lived a life without scandal, mainly because he followed the footsteps of his Father in heaven with consistency. Franklin Graham has a new book out titled Through My Father's Eyes, where he discusses Reverend Graham and what it was like to be around him both in public and in private.
A lot of people think that, a person that's well known, many times when the cameras are on them and the flash bulbs are flashing and they're smiling, and when all that's turned off, they're different people. My father was the same. In the stadiums, on television, as what we saw at home, there wasn't two people. He was just the same.
Franklin Graham also talks about death and why it's one of the topics you don't hear a lot of people discussing.
We're all getting closer and closer to that moment. The Bible says there is an appointed time of death for all of us. And then after that, the judgment. We're going to have to stand before God and give an account. There is a judgment. But that's why Christ came. He took our sins, because none of us can stand before God as sinners. But he took our sins, and he died on the cross, he was buried, and he rose again, and he's coming back.
Again, the name of that book is Through My Father's Eyes, which just came out on May 1st. Senator Bernie Sanders is looking ahead to the 2020 presidential election with a proposed federal government program that guarantees all Americans a job with health insurance. Now, 50% of Americans do like that idea. For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
Military plane crash looking for apprentice outtakes. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The Puerto Rican National Guard says there was a crew of 9 on board a C-130 cargo plane that crashed onto a busy highway after takeoff from an airport near Savannah, Georgia. Local officials say there appears to have been no survivors. Port Wentworth, Georgia Police Chief Matt Libby says they narrowly avoided a catastrophe.
Had this gone down couple hundred feet north or south, we might have hit traffic, or we could have hit any of these big warehouses around here, or any of these businesses, or a gas station.
Puerto Rico's National Guard Adjutant General says the 60-year-old plane was being flown to Arizona to be retired. Former apprentice contestant who has accused President Trump of unwanted groping and kissing is seeking footage that features Summer Zervos or Trump talking about her or discussing other female contestants in a sexual or inappropriate way. She's suing Trump for defamation. I'm Tim McGuire.
From CBC News, The World This Hour, I'm Karen Howerlock. There are calls for a public inquiry into the extradition of Hassan Diab, the Ottawa academic who spent 3 years in a French prison without being charged. Ottawa is doing an internal review, but 2 prominent civil rights groups say that may be a conflict of interest. David Cochran reports.
Amnesty International and the BC Civil Liberties Association call what happened to Hassan Diab a miscarriage of justice. 3 years in a French prison under investigation for the 1980 bombing of a Paris synagogue. He was never charged due to lack of evidence. This week, CBC News reported the details of a confidential memo that revealed the efforts Canada made in 2009 to ensure Diab was extradited. When Diab was finally returned to Canada in January, the Justice Department launched an internal review. Amnesty and the Civil Liberties Group say a public inquiry is the only acceptable remedy, warning in an open letter that an internal review is clearly not appropriate, as it will be carried out by the very department that may be responsible for what happened to Diab. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister, along with other members of Parliament, are remembering a colleague who died suddenly this morning. Conservative MP Gord Brown suffered a heart attack. Party leader Andrew Scheer is among those paying tribute to Brown.
I know that Gord always held the respect of all members in this House, and his loss will be felt by everyone who had the honour of sitting with him, working with him, or debating with him here.
Brown was 57. He leaves behind a wife and 2 sons. People living along the St. John River in New Brunswick are bracing for the worst flooding in nearly half a century. The river is overflowing due to a combination of warm temperatures, ice jams, and heavy rain. Nearly 2,000 residents are under voluntary evacuation orders. Connell Smith has more from the St. John area.
At Somerville on the Kingston Peninsula, the river is expected to come up another meter over the next 3 days.
Pile them up. Yeah.
David Lomas hired a moving truck and is taking everything, clothing, furniture, even the dishes.
If you wait to the last minute, it's too late.
Across the river in Rossay, friends have also rallied to help Kevin Beaupre move sandbags from trailer to boat to front lawn.
If it gets up as high as it's supposed to, it's going to be well into the basement.
Beaupre calculates he'll need 600 sandbags. That's a lot of back-breaking work, and those bags were not easy to find.
That's the CBC's Connell Smith. One of U.S. President Donald Trump's top lawyers is stepping down. Ty Cobb joined the White House legal team last year. He had reportedly urged the president to cooperate with special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia inquiry. Ty Cobb will be replaced by Emmett Flood, who defended former President Bill Clinton during his impeachment proceedings 20 years ago. 2 black men arrested for loitering last month at a Starbucks in Philadelphia have reached a settlement with the company and the city. They've agreed on a symbolic payment of $1 each and a promise from the city to set up a program to help young entrepreneurs. The men's arrest set off a furor over racial profiling. Well, several black musicians in the U.S. are criticizing Kanye West over comments he made about slavery during a media interview. Stephanie Skandaris has more.
I don't think he meant it. You don't think he meant it?
That's TMZ's Van Lathan and Harvey Levin discussing Kanye West's outburst in their newsroom. West said during an interview that 400 years of slavery was a choice, and Van Lathan took him to task for it. Many fans say they're disappointed. Fellow artists are speaking out too. Director Spike Lee says Kanye West needs to wake up, and musician will.i.am says the comments broke his heart.
Anybody you ever seen?
Perhaps the biggest question in all of this is about Kanye West's motivation. He says his statement was an example of free thought and a new idea. Others suspect it's a marketing ploy. Stephanie Skandaris, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is your World This Hour. For CBC News, I'm Karen Howerluck.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
1 minute remaining in the third quarter in Houston. Rockets and the Jazz all tied up at 84. James Harden, 25 points, 5 rebounds and 10 assists. Jazz up 1-0 in that series. Utah Jazz assistant coach Igor Kokoskov has become the new head coach of the Phoenix Suns. He makes history. He is a native of Serbia, the first head coach in the NBA that was born and raised outside of North America. NHL scoreboard, they're about to tip off in San Jose. Sharks and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights lead the series 2-1. Earlier, the Lightning take a 2-1 series lead.
Face-off win for the Lightning. Palat spinning out of the corner. Out to D'Antoni. A shot turned aside by Tuukka Rask. And now they score! The shot by Hedman deflected in front. 2-0 Lightning.
That is courtesy of NBC Sports Network. The Lightning, a 4-1 win over the Bruins in Boston. Palat, 2 goals for Tampa Bay. They take a 2-1 series lead. Meanwhile, Washington Capitals forward Tom Wilson has been suspended by the NHL Department of Player Safety for 3 playoffs games for his hit to the head of forward Zach Aston Reese, the Pittsburgh Penguins, that resulted in a broken jaw and a concussion in Game 3. Major League Baseball, top 9, Washington 9, Pittsburgh 3. It has just ended. Milwaukee, a 3-1 win at Cincinnati. Bottom of the 9th, Phillies shutting out Miami 6-0. Top 8, Yankees, a 3-0 lead at Houston. Giancarlo Stanton with 2 home runs. Bottom of the 1st, Dodgers, a 1-0 lead at Arizona. Earlier, Boston all over Kansas City. And Mookie swings and he hammers it. Deep center field. Way back. It's gone. Third home run of the game for Mookie Betts. He's pulled off the hat trick again. 3 homers for Mookie Betts and a 5-4 win. Dan Schwartzman, NBC Sports Radio.